Hello and welcome to Fiction Fans, the podcast where we read books and other words too. I'm Lily.
And I'm Sarah, and I am so delighted that we are joined today by a good friend of the show, KRR Lockhaven, to talk about today's book.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before we jump into the journey we have ahead of us, let's start with something great that happened lately. Sarah, I'm going to pick on you.
Okay, I have my good thing prepared for once, and I moved my bed into the box room. So the box room is actually a proper bedroom now, which is very exciting. It does mean that my room doesn't have a bed yet. It has a mattress. So it's giving off very just graduated college and moved into the first apartment.
Flashbacks to 19.
Yes.
It's better access for the pugs, though, right?
That is true. They can jump up there on their own.
That's actually a great point. Do they have stairs?
No. So Snorri can jump up on things. He could jump. My bed is fairly low, or my bed frame was fairly low. So he could jump up by himself when he wasn't having like a bad arthritis day. Mr. Squeak, I've had since she was a puppy. She is used to being picked up when she wants to get up on things. So she never learned how to jump.
Oh.
So she can't actually jump up, even though it is within jumping height for another pug.
Swamp dragons do show up in the Pratchett book we're discussing today, so I'm just going to leave the fact that pugs are swamp dragons.
And we did have our very first pug was named Chubby.
Even better. Oh, but Chubby has a terrible fate.
I know, Chubby does.
Dragon Chubby does.
It made it even more heart-wrenching because I was like, Chubby.
But this is a time for good things, not sad things. Kyle, dig us out of this hole.
Okay. This might do it. So my youngest son and I have started recording his first album, and he really wants to be the next Weird Al Yankovic. That's his goal in life right now. So he has these parody songs that we're recording. And
wait, can he do intro and outro music to this podcast?
Might be able to, yeah. We could give him that assignment.
We would commission that.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
He would love that. And if I could cheat, I got one more quick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I just had an idea like yesterday for a cozy fantasy book that I think like might really work. So the gears are still turning, but I'm kind of excited about it. So
that's the best news. That's the best news ever.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about it.
We will ask you to expand on that later.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
My great thing is that I have witnessed my first bumblebee of spring.
Nice.
Oh, yay.
So that's, I'm glad that they're back hanging out around the lavender, doing bee stuff.
Sounds great.
Hopefully more will follow. Oh, they are being rambunctious, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Squeak is barking at nothing.
She needs to go to sleep so we can get some of those pug snores.
Yeah.
But is a pug bark more special?
Yeah.
Because they're easier to cut out usually. All right, pugs and bumblebees aside, what's everyone drinking tonight? I'll start. I'm drinking a mimosa.
That sounds delightful. I was going to make homemade lemonade, but I didn't have a chance. So I'm drinking a gin and tonic instead.
Oh, but also lovely.
Also good.
I'm having a German chocolate stout. It's by Icicle Brewing in Leavenworth, which I'm sure Lily is familiar with.
Dude, I fucking love Leavenworth. Sarah would hate
right?
it, but I'm such a Christmas fanatic.
Yeah.
I would enjoy it. Like, I'd like Christmas.
There's a lot of music though.
I wouldn't like the music, but I would like the ambiance. And I'm assuming that they have a Christmas market And I'm a sucker for a Christmas market.
I mean, the whole thing is it's all you do is buy stuff there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so like I would like it. The music would grate a little bit, but everything else would compensate.
Yeah.
For context for listeners, Leavenworth is a town in Washington. I mean, it's between Western and Eastern Washington.
Yeah. Right in the middle, pretty much.
You have to take the path to get there anyway. But it's a Bavarian themed town that goes all out for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's very fun.
It is.
Also, they sell a lot of cheese and a lot of beer.
Yeah.
And you're repping, and I love that.
Yeah, it's good. I never used to drink dark beers until I tried this, and I'm hooked.
Excellent. Since this is theoretically a book podcast, has anyone read anything good lately?
It's just been podcast reading.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah, I got a few. I asked earlier if I could cheat and do two. So one of them is Why Odin Drinks by Bjorn Larson.
I keep meaning to read that. He gave me an arc, and I'm really sad I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
Yeah, it's great. Just kind of appropriate for this podcast because it's really reminds me of Pratchett in a lot of ways. It's like if Pratchett wrote Norse mythology, basically. Like the styles are a lot different, but like kind of the spirit of it and the quick fire jokes and things like that really remind me of Pratchett. And then there's like brilliant insights on the human condition, like between the lines, and it's just really, really great. And the other one I just got done with was Lucky Jack by Sue Bavey, I think is how
Oh yeah, that's the memoirs of her grandfather.
Yep. Yeah, it's a biography she wrote about her grandfather, who was just super interesting guy. He was a POW in World War II, and he was born in 1894 and lived until 2000. So he spent 3 centuries kind of, and just like the most positive, life affirming guy. It was a really good read.
That's amazing. Well, I didn't even do the podcast reading. That's not true. I got like halfway done with the book. And although I do not own the book, apparently I have read it before, because during our conversation before the recording, it turns out I already knew all of the twists. So either I'm a genius. Maybe let's go with that one, actually. Yeah. No, I haven't.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Kyle's going to be my new co-host. Just tell me I'm smart the whole time.
I could do that.
That means I'd get a little bit of free time back. So have at it, Kyle.
All right.
Well, as we have implied, we are reading, or we have read and are discussing Men-at-Arms by Terry Pratchett. And you know what that means.
Would it be stepping on any toes if you let me do the intro?
No. Please do. That means I'm not the only one who likes it.
Oh, I love it. It's an honor. All right. And now it's time for our journey to the center of the Discworld. Discworld. Thank you for letting me do that.
I couldn't help myself. I still had to help. It's true. And this step is another book in the Night's Watch series. Is this the second Night's Watch book?
I think it's the second City Guards book, yeah.
City Guards. Yeah. Wait, but we never read anything about the Day Guards.
I think, well, at the end of this book, I can't say that. I can't say that.
Oh no, we're already hitting spoilers.
I think that the first 2 books are specifically about the Night Watch.
All right, we'll leave it there. I will no longer argue that Day's Watch and Night's Watch or City's Guard or whatever. It's fine. It's the Sam Vimes books. Can we just agree on that?
Yes.
A book that I realized yesterday that I did not own. Oops. Bought an ebook. Gonna return the ebook. Sorry, not sorry, Pratchett. I'll buy the physical book eventually, though. But while reading it, this is something we can talk about more in the spoiler section, though. Apparently, I have read it before, even though I did not remember. doing so. But there are a couple of things in this book that you do not forget. And I think Sarah...
The first one being Sam Vimes' theory of socioeconomic unfairness, also known as the Boots theory, which shows up on page 29, at least in my edition of the book. And I think this is honestly one of his most well-known social commentaries.
Oh, definitely.
I see it on Reddit almost literally every day.
Yeah. So for those who might be unfamiliar, the quote is as follows. Take Boots, for example. Wait, no.
No, you should start with the line before.
Yes, I do need to start with the line before. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50, but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while a poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was the Captain Samuel Vimes' Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness.
So good.
So good. And the interesting thing is that there actually is a Vimes Boots Index now in the UK, which which tracks inflation in the cheapest foods. I think it was started in January by a well-known food journalist and like poverty advocate.
I mean, Pratchett's not the very first person to say that it's expensive to be poor, but his language is so entertaining and masterful that it's obviously the one that stuck.
Yeah. Like the thing about it is that it's the way he says it is memorable.
Yeah, totally.
So this is not at all in our notes, but I have to ask. And in that quote, I realized that he was saying dollars. Was that? I mean, is that just because we have an Americanized version of the books?
No, because the Ankh-Morpork currency is the dollar.
Yeah. It is the dollar. Okay.
Yeah, the Ankh-Morpork dollar.
I guess I hadn't actually registered that Ankh-Morpork uses the dollar.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any reasoning or explanation that he's given outside of the books as for why he chose to use the dollar.
I mean, it is... I'm not going to use the word universal because that's really shitty. But I do feel like it is a common point of reference for a wide range of people. That's fair, right? That's
yeah, it could almost maybe be seen as a like I don't know, commentary on America where Ankh-Morpork is kind of America, you know, and he's making fun of us in a way, possibly. I don't think it's that, but...
Oh, I've always felt like Ankh-Morpork is both London and LA at the same time.
Yeah.
But the theory of boots economics comes up, and that's one of the pretty major themes in this book. Vimes marries into money. We love Sybil, his fiance, but that's not what we're talking about. It does give us the opportunity to look at, I don't want to use the phrase warfare, but I don't know, class stratification?
Yeah.
Is maybe a less inflammatory way to say it. There's also some racial tensions in this book, and they're both species tension in the book, but
in the book. Yes.
Right.
I don't know, it's very interesting. I just wanted to take this moment to say that this book was published in 1993, but I'm not going to use that to say, oh, it's so dated. Instead, I just think that that's an interesting frame of reference to look at how it's dealing with classism and speciesism. Technically, the two main species in this fantasy world that we see in conflict are the trolls and the dwarves. And I actually thought it was very interesting. Pratchett wrote into his fantasy world a very straightforward reason why the conflict started. Trolls are often made out of precious gems. Dwarves are trying to mine precious gems. Thus, conflict is going to happen. And then obviously it evolves over the course of the novel. But just such a simple, straightforward reason buried underneath this, even in world, generational conflict is such an interesting way of abstracting.
Well, I feel like that's how Pratchett handles most things that he wants to satirize or comment on. Like, he gives a very straightforward reasoning to better counterpoint how ridiculous some of it is.
Right, yeah, like break it down to its simplest form and just show you that, wow, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, if you look at it from this angle, everything feels so simple. And it would be nice if it was that simple in every other angle.
Yeah.
I feel like the Boots theory of economics and the precious gem theory of race war. No, but even if when I humorously simplify it like that, it becomes this whole other thing in the context of the real world. Pratchett just managed to nail the abstract analogy in a way that is so perfectly him, I think.
Right. I think there are very few who could like tread over these different things the way he does in such a way, and just kind of, you know, I'm sure he's changed people's minds about things because he's just able to do it in such a basic way, but it's really done well.
And there's something to say that the fact that it's humor, and that does mean he simplifies and makes fun of some aspects, but that makes it easier to digest, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. I mean, we were talking earlier a little bit about how this book was published in 1993, and we don't really want to call it dated, but that does inform, you know, the way that he handles everything. But it's interesting to see how his handling of, in particular, like the troll dwarf conflict changes over the course of the series.
I feel like sometimes we use the word dated to say, like, try to ignore the flaws. He has grown as an author. But in this case, we're saying, no, this is an example of conflict at the time he was writing. Dated.
Yeah.
It's a different definition of the word dated. But from the fun side, this book does have clowns in it, which we're not going to talk about right this moment. But we would be remiss if we did not discuss the incredible brand of humor, we kind of touched upon it just now, that Pratchett manages to bring to every corner of his literary expertise. Kyle, I think you said you had a couple of quotes that I would love to look at.
Yeah. So one of them is, so many crimes are solved by happy accident, by the random stopping of a car, by an overheard remark, by someone of the right nationality happening to be within 5 miles of the scene of the crime without an alibi. And so like that kind of scathing social commentary is just like littered throughout, and he just like drops it here and there, and it's brilliant, but it's just one line, you know.
Can I call it a truth bomb? Does that ruin it? That might ruin it. Maybe I'll cut that.
I think also for me, what I find so brilliant is how and normally this would throw me out of a fantasy novel, but he talks about real world things and like real world objects and real world concepts that have no place in Discworld, like TVs or whatever, or cars.
Or guns.
Well, but I'm saying specifically in the context of like a footnote or an aside, and it somehow manages to work really well with his style and humor. And you don't think, well, why are you talking to me about something on Earth? This is a Discworld book.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to complain. The ebook version, it just has teeny tiny little asterisks that you have to tap on to link, and it opens up the footnote. And I'm sure I missed footnotes, and that makes me so mad because the footnotes are always so good.
Yeah, they are.
I like that though, because I think I've tried to read Pratchett in ebook format a long time ago, like back when ebooks were still not new, but like not quite as streamlined.
Yeah.
And it didn't automatically take me to the footnote. I had to actually like scroll to the very end of the book to get there. So I like that they're hyperlinked.
I just wished the tiny, minuscule 0.2 font asterisks were larger, so I noticed them more often.
Probably just the same size as the rest of the font.
Yeah, but
the text.
But you have to take that into consideration. Like reading an ebook, am I going to notice this tiny notation? No. Hopefully I did. Maybe I noticed all of them, and that's just a fear that I have. But
I don't know. I think changing every asterisk to a larger font size while keeping the rest of the font the same size would be a hassle.
That's just a find and replace, my dude.
To change the font size? Can you change font size by find and replace?
I think so.
Maybe that's a Microsoft Word thing and not an Apple Word thing.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, not the point. The point is that the footnotes are excellent. And Pratchett really does use humor to explore concepts and make them more approachable than they would be, right? If this was just a political treatise that was like, hey, rich people, please acknowledge how much you suck. That's gonna alienate somebody.
Right.
Versus, let's talk about shoes. Who doesn't want to talk about shoes? Do you have another quote for us? Hit me.
Yeah, I got one more. All right. Owning 100 slum properties wasn't a crime, although living in one was, almost. Being an assassin, the guild never actually said so, but an important qualification was being the son or daughter of a gentleman. Wasn't a crime. If you had enough money, you could hardly commit crimes at all. You just perpetrated amusing little peccadillos. I think I said that right.
You said it perfect. And I think this is another great example of Pratchett being extremely critical from a humorous perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Kyle, you've spoken about how Pratchett's humor has inspired you in your own works, and you also have some extremely thoughtful moments sort of couched in humorous text. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, I definitely try to do that. I don't know if I reach Pratchett's level, but it's something I'm definitely interested in because, like you said earlier, social commentary just by itself can be kind of dry or maybe something that people would gloss over or something. But if you can do it right and with the right amount of humor, then it's better sometimes. I find it to be anyway. So I definitely try to do that.
I think, well, this is a sneak peek, but we might have some insider knowledge on your novel coming out later this year. And I will say that that's definitely true there.
Well,
and leave it at that, and we can talk about it later.
All right.
We've been discussing a lot about the classism discussed in this book, sort of explored through Vimes. I'm going to call him the main character, although that's not necessarily the case, marrying into money. But one of the other things going on is that the Night Watch is experiencing affirmative action in that they have been decreed to hire people of diverse species. And when it was first introduced, I was a little mad at Pratchett.
Yeah.
But then he brought it back. He flipped it. It became clear that it was the characters who were being shitty about it. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think and all of the characters are kind of shitty about it. There's a lot of speciesism in this book, which is kind of the point. But I think that Pratchett does a good job of making it clear that, yeah, these characters are being shitty, that's not the opinion that I, as the author, necessarily hold.
Yeah.
In doing so, he's poking fun at real world people who are similarly shitty.
Yeah, it strikes me as just very honest about, like, his characters are how the characters would probably be, especially at that time. And so he definitely makes that distinction. This is not what I think. This is what these people might think. And so I agree.
Yeah. Are you looking for a quote?
Yeah. I think for me, it was very well displayed in how it was first introduced, with the old guard of the Night Watch being extremely dismissive and disgruntled. And then Angua, who was one of the new hires, mostly given that she was a woman. Wait, is that a spoiler? Let me rephrase.
You just leave it like that.
Yeah, let's go with it. All right.
Because that's the way it's presented in the book, right? Like, there's only one reason that she was hired, as far as Carrot knows.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's a woman, right? Like,
so I'll just say that my reaction when it was first brought up was, oh geez, hey Pratchett, this isn't a joke. Like, why are you poking fun at this? And then we get Angua on the scene, who says, Angua stopped. That's it, is it? Good grief. This is the century of the fruit bat, Ye gods. Does he really think like that? And just having a character in the book push back on the notion makes it no longer the book's statement on the concept.
right.
Like, you can have a character be opinionated. Just have another character with the other opinion. And then the whole book is not colored one way or the other. And then where the book stands is on the book itself. And so Angua being able to have that moment of stepping in and saying, like, that's absurd and antiquated. And no, of course I was not only hired because I was a woman, or for any other reason. Was so important to me as a reader, because then I wasn't annoyed the whole time. And even if it was supposed to make me annoyed at the character, having another character voice my annoyance helped me deal with the text as a whole.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can see that.
Sarah, we once complained about the word yummy. Words are weird.
We did.
I am now going to non-complain about the word yucky in a very specific context. Our dear friend Carrot, who is a character in this book, who is a character in previous books, is trying to describe cultural nuances between dwarves and humans to Sam Vimes. And eventually he tries to explain that using someone else's tools is yucky. And I think the reason why that did not bother me is because
it's Carrot.
Well, it's Carrot and he can do no wrong. But also, if you're trying to describe cultural nuances, you're going to reach for words that don't perfectly fit the connotation. And that's fine, because you can't perfectly fit connotations. You're just trying to get the general thought across.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it because it's Carrot, and it's very appropriate for him to say. I would still rather hear gross than yucky. But
that's fair.
Although on the subject of Carrot, because he is pretty central to the story, I really like how Pratchett distinguishes or makes a point of saying that simple, which is what everyone says that Carrot is not the same as stupid. Like, Carrot is simple, sure. He's straightforward. He thinks the best of people and honest, yeah. But he's not stupid. He's actually quite smart.
Oh, yeah.
It's just in a slightly different way from the very twisty thinking of Vimes, for example.
I absolutely love Carrot. And I feel bad about that sometimes, because he's so obviously built up for us to love him. But Pratchett does a good job. Like, I do.
I mean, I like Carrot. I find him boring, but I feel like that's
kind of the point.
That's kind of the point. Like, he's supposed to be this very solid everyday hero,
by the rules kind of guy, but
yeah,
still really likable.
Yeah. Like I like him. I just find other characters more interesting.
Yeah.
There are, well, 3 other characters mentioned. 2 of them are actual characters in the book. One of them is, at one point, someone mentions that they painted, or there is a painting called the Mona Og. That must be a reference to Nanny Og, right? Someone painted Nanny Og.
I don't know if it's specifically a reference to her, but I would like to think that it is. There's also a reference to the script Ogham, which I think references the Og clan as well.
Is there can you see the Mona Og anywhere in the art of Discworld books or anything like that?
I think you can, actually. I have one of them. I haven't looked at it in years, but I think that there is a Mona Og. I think, who's the official? It's Paul Kirby who does all of the Discworld art, I think. Paul Kidby.
Okay.
And I think that he has done a Mona Og.
It is featured on the cover of The Art of Discworld, the very book which revealed that Leonard had dated Nanny Og when they were both young.
Oh, wow.
So it is Nanny.
It is Nanny. That was my assumption. I'm glad I was right.
Nice.
But that was a very small reference. Obviously, I'm a Nanny Og fan, so I latched onto it. But there are 2 other characters who are more involved, one of them being Death himself, and of course, Lord Vetinari. Death doesn't have a lot of plot relevance, but does show up because people do die in this book. And I think this is the first time we see him being goofy.
No, I think we see him being goofy in other books.
Maybe. This is the book where he is trying to make jokes to make people's transition to the afterlife smoother, which is very sweet.
Yeah. He's kind of working out his stand-up routine or something like that.
Yeah. He's like practicing his one-liners on people. Yeah. And he doesn't have a good reaction anytime, but he's also understanding about it.
Right.
There are other books where he has more involvement and more character growth, but this is sort of a good example of Death, as I understand him, just sort of passing through to say hi.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Vetinari, on the other hand, is extremely involved in this book.
He is quite present, which makes me happy because I have a huge soft spot for Vetinari, mostly because teen Sarah had a huge crush on teen Vetinari in the book Night Watch. And that carries over to adult Vetinari. I'm fond of him.
Yeah, he's such a interesting character. He's so different than, I don't know, any other character I can think of.
He's scheming.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about him, and this is maybe a simple version of it, but he tells Vimes to not investigate something. And then to the reader, it is immediately revealed that is because Vetinari wanted him to investigate.
Yeah.
And he knew by telling Vimes not to, that of course he would, but also would make Vetinari not responsible. And that is such a great example of a character being smart. I mean, manipulative. But there are some books where characters always say exactly what they mean in dialogue. And it's like, people don't do that.
Yeah.
And so seeing someone manipulate intelligently is nice, especially when it's for a cause that I believe in, because of course I want Vimes to investigate the murder. Is that the whole point of the book?
Yeah, I do really like that. And I love how manipulative Vetinari is. I do kind of feel that is a little bit counteracted by how he acts in later meetings, where he's seemingly genuine about wanting Vimes off the case. And I think that could have been a little clearer, or like pick one stance and stick with it, Vetinari. But I do like that he uses reverse psychology on Vimes all the time.
Yeah. And then he kept stepping it up. Like, I mean, the punishment was going to be severe if Vimes looked into this stuff. The whole point was to just get him to do it.
It's a great example of a leader I would never want in real life, but love as a fictional character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pick on you. It's for the question, why should you read this book?
Okay. I mean, I kind of feel like this is one of my actual kind of favorites, but I don't know why I tend to like the watch books more than others at times. Can't really put a finger on that, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Is this the first time Gaspode was introduced?
No, Gaspode shows up in the Hollywood book, Moving Pictures.
Gaspode being the talking dog.
Yeah. I think one of the things that makes the City Watch books so memorable is they have a little tinge of darkness to them that some of the other Discworld books don't.
Yeah.
Like they're just a little darker and a little grimier.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I was going to say that these books have really likable characters.
I mean, they do. It's true.
And so even though it does, I mean, you're right, it does deal with some darker themes and realistic, horrifying concepts. The people experiencing these events are genuinely trying their best and trying to fight for good and what is right, which is perhaps a fantastical concept, but I like it.
I don't know that Sergeant Colin and Nobby Knobs are all that excited about fighting for what's right.
No, not all of them. I'm talking about Vimes and Carrot.
Vimes and Carrot, yes.
And I'd say Angua.
And Angua. I would agree with that.
Yeah, we do have characters who are trying their best for what they genuinely believe is good. And that's just really nice to read about.
Yeah, it is. You don't get any sweetness out of Nobby? Or
Oh, I love Knobs.
I mean, I love him. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Nobby, but I don't think that he particularly cares that much about doing the right thing.
Yeah, I wish I had concrete examples, but I feel like he does underneath it all. I can't really tell you why I think that, but
like I think he's sweet. And like he does the folk dancing or whatever, and he's super enthusiastic about crossbows, and like I love that about him.
Yeah.
But I think he's also, unlike Carrot, for example, or Vimes, who, if they're faced with a mob trying to come after a prisoner that they have, and who will stand up to the mob, I think Nobby would run away.
Yeah, okay, you're right there.
Oh, but isn't he charming in the real, like, if I was on the City Watch, I would be the Nobby and not the Carrot. And that makes him charming.
I'm saying he's great. I just don't think that he's motivated by working for the common good the way that Carrot and Vimes are.
Definitely not. But he is not going to abandon his fellow City Watch people, though. I don't think.
No.
I would call him chaotic good, to borrow a D&D phrase.
I think he's a realist.
Yeah.
Versus an idealist.
Yeah.
He's going to help his friends and he's going to help himself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he's not going to sabotage the law.
No.
Versus Carrot, who is extremely literal, and Sam Vimes, who is extremely moral. I think that the Watch just has like the whole spectrum of good aligned characters in all of their chaotic, neutral, or lawful glory. Did I just turn this into a D&D podcast? I'm sorry.
Not the first time that's happened.
Yeah. Or can we turn this into a Nobby Knobs appreciation podcast?
Sure.
We got to read Jingo for that.
All right, let's go into the spoiler section.
Wait. No? Kyle had some quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, maybe one. Silly one that has nothing to do with the plot.
Pick your favorite. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just have one silly one that doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. This is Carrot when he used to live with his family. He says, "I miss the good times back home. Sometimes on my day off, I go sit in the cellar and hit my head with an axe handle, but it's just not the same." Like that amuse me.
Oh, referring to, of course, when Carrot, the 6 foot something young man was being raised by his dwarf family.
Yes.
That's very sweet. I have to say, I really love Carrot's origin, which is discussed in this book, but not maybe the major focal point.
Yeah, it's kind of incidental in this book. We get more of it in Guards because that's when Carrot is introduced.
But it is sweet. To avoid spoilers, skip to 5941. Welcome to the spoiler section, also known as the Angua appreciation moment. Let's all go around and say something we love about this character. I'll start. She is the best. I think I mentioned earlier how she counteracted one of the other characters' disparaging comments on hiring a diverse workforce, especially for people who work with a population which is scientifically proven to be actually very, very important for efficacy and also not being really shitty. So thank you, Angua. Moving on, next person.
I mean, Angua is pretty great. I don't know if the depths of my love are quite as deep as your love for her, but I do like her as a character.
I guess I'll say that she has kind of a romantic, side story with Carrot in a way, but she doesn't, even though he's a great character, she doesn't really take any of his shit at all.
I agree.
I'm vaguely remembering that she would just, anytime he said something she didn't agree with, she was not going to hesitate to let him know.
Which is so different from how I don't know how to describe them. Vimes, like his boss, the authority characters all sort of fawn over Carrot because he's such a charming young lad coming up in the city, which is great, good for him. But he's still wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And so having Angua there to say, you should think about this a little harder, or maybe you don't have the whole story, is really important. She does fulfill such an important role of the reality check, kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yes, she fulfills that role sometimes. She's not always right.
That's fine.
And she doesn't always. I think she also has a view of Carrot that, how do I want to phrase what I want to say? She also fawns in him, just in a different way.
Yeah,
that's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, she likes him.
Yeah.
She is biased, it's true. We find out that she was actually the werewolf hire and not the woman hire onto the Night Watch staff. That's the big reveal. We're in the spoiler section. Now we can talk about it. But what's actually important about that is Gaspode, the incredible talking dog from Moving Pictures, is back. And their banter is the best dialogue in the entire book.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I love that. Love Gaspode.
But he needs someone he can actually talk with. I feel like in Moving Pictures, Gaspode was great, but he was sort of bouncing off of a wall of not a bland character, but a character who didn't engage with him. Whereas Angua, as a werewolf, when she's in her human form or her dog form, will actually engage with him in dialogue in a way that takes it to the next level.
Yeah. Even when she's not supposed to be hearing him at times.
All right. So we can talk about the whole gonne thing.
Yeah.
We could talk about Angua more. I would rather do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I had really mixed feelings about the gonne, not in the sense that guns have no place in Ankh-Morpork, whatever, but there's this whole idea throughout the book that the gonne is controlling people and it's making them do what they wouldn't necessarily have acted upon. And that just, I don't know, that doesn't quite sit right with me.
Yeah.
That the gonne is this kind of independently evil thing,
right,
that controls people. It mixed feelings there.
I do too. I looked up something before the podcast. There's a book called The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. And the title is based on a quote from Homer in the Odyssey, where it says, "The blade itself incites to deeds of violence." And I feel like, in a way, that is true. Like, it's, Terry Pratchett takes it to a Terry Pratchett level of kind of extreme to prove a point. But if someone has a gun in their hand, they might do something that they wouldn't have done without that. I feel like that might be true.
That's true. I think that's a fair point.
To me, it feels like the idiom, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
But maybe, taken to, as you said, the Pratchettian extreme.
Right. Yeah, it's not literally talking to you in your head and making you do all these evil things, but it might maybe push you a little in that direction. The power that corrupts people.
There are definitely statistics about, actually, I take it all back.
I think for me, it's kind of the implication that the people themselves are innocent. It's just the gun.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with me, because that's not entirely true.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but that's kind of how it comes out in the book.
Yeah, you're right. It does at times.
Yeah,
that's true. I wonder how much of this sits funny with us because we are coming from a sort of United States, or a very concretely United States perspective, whereas Pratchett is writing from a British perspective. And gun control in those two countries are historically very different. And there is the idea that the fewer guns, the less gun violence there is.
What a concept.
Yeah. And so if you distill that down to its purest form, therefore, if there's only one gun, that's the only gun that does violence, or gun violence at least. And I think that it doesn't sit well for us, maybe because we're coming from the perspective of, but there's so much bullshit, to simplify everything down to that one sentence.
Yeah.
And not get into it too deeply. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. I just feel like that inherent difference in perspective should be addressed.
Yeah, it's possible that's the cause. Yeah.
Someone writing in the early 90s in Britain is going to have a different perspective on gun violence than someone speaking in the early 2020s in the United States.
You don't say.
I feel like our discomfort is completely justified. I don't know. Why am I okay with justifying that when some of his past racism, I was just like, nah, throw it out. Baby with the bathwater. All of it should go. Never read those books. Whereas now I'm like, is it a product of his time, of his culture? I don't know. Why does it feel more nuanced? I don't know.
I think it feels more nuanced because it's less egregious than some of his past racism. I definitely don't think that this is throw it out with the bathwater kind of thing. Like, I really enjoyed this book, and the gun violence is kind of integral to the entire plot of the book. It's just this one small aspect that makes me uncomfortable in a way that I don't know. I've tried to articulate. I don't know how successful I've been, but
yeah, it's a tough one. Like, because the way I was looking at it is kind of like how I said that, yes, they can have an influence over a person to have that maybe kind of power in their hands. But you're right that he was basically saying that the people aren't to blame. It's just the gun's fault, right?
Yeah.
So he may, I hesitate to criticize him, but might have done that a little bit better.
Or is it, if we go the other direction, there are statistics that say in, traffic conflicts, that if there is a gun present, someone is more likely to die.
Right.
And so if you distill that down to its concept, guns mean people are more likely to die. And so maybe his discussion around that doesn't quite hit quite right. maybe because it's a little bit dated. But at the end of the day, fewer guns means less violence.
I mean, that's
not totally wrong.
It's not wrong. And it is true that, like, you know, if you didn't have the gun, like having the gun, I think that the way that he describes that works. It's just that he goes a little too far and removes any kind of like personal agency from it.
I feel that. I mean, some of the more egregious examples of gun violence that I can think of, gonna just throw Columbine out there casually, as you do. Those are examples of people who sought out guns in order to commit violence. And so the cause and effect is not the way that Pratchett displays it, right?
Yeah, I just wish there was a little bit more nuance there.
Yeah.
Where, sure, you get the gun doing a lot of the, you know, directing of the arm, but I think having the gun independently kill someone, which is what it does.
Yeah.
And like multiple times it is shown that the gun is acting, not the person. Like, I wanted more acknowledgement of the fact that no, the gun's an influence. It is the person.
I'm okay. I agree the gun acting independently is inexcusable, but like there should have been more of a focus on people seeking out the gun in order to use it.
I feel like we do kind of get that though.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the balance, right? Like, because that's what ends up happening is people want to do violence first, generally. Not, okay, no, I'm not going to speak like I know anything. The cause and effect, I think, is the sticking point here, right? Do you have the gun and then do violence, or do you want to do violence and then go find the gun? And those are the two different things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't want, like, Dr. Cruz, for example, to be absolved of everything he did with the gun because it was the gun doing it and not him.
But then in the end, Carrot, who, you know, isn't known for killing, you know, just kind of goes up and kills Dr. Cruz, right? And so in a way, that's kind of an indictment of his whole thing, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Well, no, I think that's a great point. I think we are just approaching this whole concept from a very different place than Pratchett. Actually, yeah, Columbine hadn't even happened yet when he wrote this book. I don't know. There so much has happened since he wrote this to when we are speaking.
Oh yeah, completely different world.
That I feel like a lot of the nuance is not applicable. And that makes this book deeply uncomfortable and incorrect.
we can understand why he wrote what he did, but still feel uncomfortable reading it in the context of 2022.
I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Like the world that this book was written in, ironically about gun violence, happened so long ago that it's just not.
Yeah.
He tried.
He did try.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways he was successful, just maybe not 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe if the weapon in question wasn't a gun, it would be less, I don't know, specific. I mean, obviously it would be, but it would be more conceptual.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the fact that it's a gun, which is something that, like, you know, America has a huge gun violence problem. So if it was like, I don't know, a sword, a magic sword that it would feel more fantasy and less real world. And the way that it was handled would feel less relevant too.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about the concept of, if you have a means of violence, you're more likely to go towards violence. And the mind control thing would feel less, I think, sticky.
Yeah.
Sorry to make this a little about myself, but I wrote a book that's never going to see the light of day, but it was set in the the same world as the first one I wrote, and it dealt with people conjuring these different kinds of gargoyles, and it kind of was supposed to be a commentary on guns, and I don't know if it was really successful or not, but it was kind of like using these different gargoyles to do their bidding as a metaphor. Like I said, it's probably not going to ever come out because it didn't really work.
But see, you took that extra step of the metaphor, right?
Yeah.
By abstracting it farther, it makes it easier to discuss the concept. Whereas in this instance, Pratchett was just like, yeah, I spelled it different, but it's a gun. Right. And so we are unable to look at the conversation without going, oh my God, that's a gun.
Yeah.
And that is why the distance from fantasy and sci-fi satire makes such a difference, I would say.
Yeah.
If it were gargoyles instead of guns, maybe I would have been able to actually interact with the sort of metaphor Pratchett was trying to make. But instead, I was just stuck on, those are bullets. Oh, we always do this. Okay, wait, we have to come up with a positive thing to end for this section.
Pratchett's got some great dad jokes. I didn't write them down, but I appreciated them.
That's not helpful, is it? If you don't write it down.
I mean, I did write one down that was just silly that happens toward the end.
The dad's saving us.
Oh, the real dad, yeah.
Yeah, the real dad saving us with the dad jokes.
All right, so there's a thing toward the end where Gaspode, he keeps hinting that he has the power throughout the book. He's telling Angua that and stuff. And so as I was reading, I was wondering, I wonder what the power is going to be. And in a crucial moment, he just yells in his best human voice, "Sit!" And all these dogs sit down. But the quote was that after he said "sit," 50% of the dogs obeyed. In most cases, the hind 50%. Silly and fun.
Actually, that does remind me of something not super related, but so there's a big Fido who is the leader of this kind of gang of dogs on Morpork. The guild, yes.
Because everyone has a guild in on Morpork.
And who's, the meanest, baddest ass dog around. Turns out to be a poodle.
I'm sorry, baddest ass? Is that how you phrase that?
It's like
the badassest?
Yeah,
I don't think there's either of those.
I don't think there's a good way of doing it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't picking on you. I was just linguistically questioning.
I mean, I don't know if that's the real way of saying it, but I don't think the real way of saying it, if there is one, is going to be any better. So
most badass, I think. When in doubt, chicken out.
No, but I don't like saying most something because I don't like that linguistically.
Oh, that might be a you problem.
Possibly.
Words are weird. Oh.
Badassery. Badassery is an acceptable form, although I'm not sure if that fits this particular.
The most badassery poodle? No, you can't say that.
Poodle with more badassery than anyone else.
Anyway, my point was he's a poodle.
And he has the worst ass.
My father, for a very long time, until I stole it from him, he gave it to me, but
I didn't know that was in your house now.
It is. So he has this poster. It's done by the comic artist Linda Berry. And he knew what people thought of his kind: high-strung, spoiled rotten, French. But in the next 24 hours, he's going to change all that. He's small, he's black, he's mad as hell, he's poodle with a mohawk. And that is what I thought of Fido the entire time.
This is, okay, for listeners, this is like a 2x3 foot piece of art that is incredible. And most of it is just this very angry poodle with a mohawk. And it's very good.
Yes. And I did, when I moved into my current house, I did steal it from my father.
That's incredible. I didn't know that was there now.
It is. I'm looking at it right now, in fact.
That's true, though. Poodles do have a bone to pick, don't they?
Yeah.
So I have this problem with Pratchett sometimes where I can tell he's making a joke, but I just don't get the reference. And sometimes I actually bother to look it up. And sometimes I just go, am I missing something? Is there something happening here? And sometimes I'm not. And that's just all it was. Anyway, in this case, this book pretty early on introduces, during the discussion of palace landscaping, ha-has?
Which are a thing. They're a thing.
Is that really a thing?
They are a thing. It is genuinely a landscape design element that is used.
And they named it that?
It has a whole Wikipedia article.
Unacceptable. So, okay, in this book, the joke is this haha was so big they had to call it a ho-ho, which, sure, all right. But what?
He's making a joke about how silly the phrase haha is, the term haha is.
Did you not look up where this phrase came from? Because I will right now, because it bothers me so much.
I mean, I have the Wikipedia page open for you.
Does it tell you?
Well, there's this apocryphal story. It has quotations. I don't know how good they are. Or citations, I mean. The name haha is thought to have stemmed from the reaction of the son of Louis XIV of France, whose governess prevented him from approaching the drop for fear of injury. When he approached, he said, haha, this is what I'm supposed to be afraid of. And since then, more people started referring to saut de loup as haha. Alternatively, it could be just because of the element of surprise one has when approaching the construction. It may have been referred to as a ha-ha as an abbreviation of half and half, with half a wall and half a ditch, though this explanation is rarely favored.
It's actually referring to like the laughter ha-ha?
Apocryphally, yes. I didn't look at the site. Like I said, there are citations. I didn't look at them. I don't know how good they are.
We trust Wikipedia on this podcast, for better or for worse.
But yeah, then he says it's a ho-ho, which is a ha-ha, but bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that.
It's just, I guess a ho-ho is a bigger laugh than a ha-ha.
Well, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I like half-half much better, but apparently that's not the favored description, and that bothers me so much.
In the 18th century, they were often called a sunken or sunk fence, at least in formal writing.
Yeah. Why would you ever call it anything else? I'm so mad.
I like how Pratchett gave you the explanation for a ha-ha in the text and you still didn't believe it was a thing.
Because what the fuck? I'm going to dig a deep fence and then call it a joke's on you. For everyone who breaks their ankle and then sues me. Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually called a joke's on you. So that's not my fault.
Ha-ha.
Exactly. Apparently that's fine. You can't name a landscape feature after an onomatopoeia.
Why not? They did it. So you can.
Yeah.
Because I said so. Apparently that's a thing, and I just have to live in this world now.
Not a lot of ha-has out there, though. You're going to come across.
I hope not.
I think if you go to the UK, you can probably find them.
Yeah.
If you go to the rich fuck part of the UK, maybe. Isn't that the like distinguishing feature?
Probably. Okay, so there's a whole section on the Wikipedia about legal and personal injury.
Hey, yeah.
In 2014, a wedding guest at a British manor house fell off a ha-ha while making her way across the manor garden, displacing her right tibia and fibula bones. She sued. The defendants settled for £10,000.
Must be nice to have national medicine. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going. I won't go on that whole thing.
In 2008, during a nighttime guided walk to watch bats at Hopetoun House in Scotland, a participant of the walk attempting to make his way back to the car park fell off a ha-ha wall and suffered a severe fracture to the ankle.
So are you telling me that there are people who stand up in court and say the word ha-ha with a straight face
Yes. So a successful personal injury claim of £35,000 was settled upon. The presiding judge deemed a ha-ha wall to be outside the scope of the law regarding obvious dangers such as cliffs or canals, where an occupier is not required to take precautions against a person being injured. This was due to it being an unusual man-made feature that the public would be very much unaware of, especially across a wide lawn.
The thing I got out of that story is that I want to go on a nighttime walk to see bats in Scotland.
Right?
even if there's a ha-ha in the way.
As long as you don't break your ankle.
Yeah.
Kyle, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Men-at-Arms. This was an absolute blast.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for inviting me.
Before you go, can you tell us a little bit about your current projects? You said that you had a cozy fantasy that you had started percolating.
Yeah, I don't know when that is going to get started, because right now I'm writing book 3 of my trilogy thing that's coming out. The first book's coming out August 20th, and so I'm finishing that up, and then I might start on that cozy thing. But the one that's coming out soon is called, I think it's going to be called this, I'm pretty sure, The Marauders, the Daughter, and the Dragon. And you guys were kind enough to beta read it for me and gave me all kinds of good feedback.
I loved it.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm excited about that coming out.
I'm excited to be able to talk about it without feeling like I'm giving away every single fucking spoiler.
Yeah.
We will be having an episode on that closer to release date, so keep your
earballs peeled.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But you also have a couple of books out now, as I understand. Not that I've read them or anything.
Yeah. The Conjuring of Zoth Avarex. There's a subtitle in there too, but yeah, that's out. You know, you can find it on Amazon.
We will link to it in the show notes as well.
Okay. And then I did a little choose your own adventure type thing that ties in with it, that doesn't, you don't necessarily need to have read the first one, but that's called Zoth Avarex's Escape Plan.
And I highly recommend actually doing the choose your own adventure and not just reading it straight through like a monster, like
I
some
did.
people on this podcast.
Hopefully it works either way.
I mean, it was wonderful. I loved it. But it's just so much easier to read things when on ebook straight through.
Yeah.
I will admit that I did both. First, I did the choose your own adventure like a person should. And then to read because I wanted to know all of the options. I then went back and read it straight through like a monster. So you can do both.
Yeah.
The Conjuring of Zoth Avarex, we also have an episode on, which...
And Zoth Avarex's Escape Plan. We had Kyle on to talk about it with us.
Oh, shit.
I kind of forgot about that too, actually, that we actually talked about that specific thing. I remember coming on with you, but...
All I know is that I love every time you come to hang out with us. So you better write more books.
I'll do that just for the purpose of hanging out with you guys.
Wonderful. Kyle, where can we find you on the internet to stalk you maybe a little bit?
So on Twitter, I'm at Kyles137 because I made it a long time ago and I can't change it now. And then my website's KRR.Lockhaven.com.
And can you remind us what KRR Lockhaven stands for? Or KRR?
It's Kyle Robert Redundant.
Which is the best joke I've probably ever heard in my entire life.
Oh, thank you. At times I feel like it's silly and I shouldn't have done it, but your support helps.
You absolutely should have done it.
Anytime you think that, text us and we'll remind you that it's the best.
All right. I might do that.
Okay, good. Oh, well, good night and thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fiction Fans.
Come disagree with us. We are on Twitter and Instagram at FictionFansPod. You can also email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and follow us wherever your podcasts live.
Thanks again for listening, and may your villains always be defeated. Bye.
Bye.